Good day, Dr. Ruckle here. Today's subject is going to be all about honey as both a food and a medicine. A reminder, please, to follow, subscribe, and share with others. Thank you. The countries of India, China, Greece, and Egypt all have a long history of utilization of honey as both a food and a medicine. Honey was found in the pyramids along with the pharaohs. Roman soldiers used to take honey and sesame seeds as emergency rations. Honey and beekeeping are among the oldest and most widespread of human activities. One worker bee makes about 1/8 of a teaspoon of honey over their lifetime. It takes almost 2.6 million flowers to make 1 pound of honey. A colony of bees may travel over 55,000 miles collectively to make 1 pound of honey. We think of bees as being valued primarily as honey producers, but their most important commercial value is that of being a pollinator. Over 1/3 of the plants we consume depend on bee pollination. The almond trees out in California are heavily dependent upon bee pollination, and they will actually truck in bees just for that specific purpose. The National Library of Medicine says there is a potential link between beekeeping, longevity, and consumption of bee-related products, including honey, propolis, bee pollen, and royal jelly. Propolis has natural antibiotic properties to it. Bee pollen can be useful for people with hay fever and asthma. And royal jelly is the food that is made and consumed exclusively by the queen and is responsible for her exponential growth. Here's some royal jelly that I will consume periodically. I actually put it into smoothies. Honey has an inhibitory effect on 60 different species of bacteria, even antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Pure honey does not contain additive ingredients such as water, sugar, or corn syrup. A major source of adulterated honey comes from China. Some of the bee colonies in China are located in industrial zones or at areas with considerable air pollution. This can lead to contamination of honey with toxic chemicals. Honey contains both pre- and probiotics. A prebiotic actually feeds the probiotics. Other examples of prebiotics could be green tea or apple cider vinegar. So acting as a prebiotic, it'll feed the healthy bacteria in the gut. The antibacterial activity of honey is due to the production of a small amount of hydrogen peroxide, chemically known as H2O2, or water with an extra oxygen molecule. Hydrogen peroxide reacts easily with other substances and is able to kill bacteria, fungi, parasites, viruses, and some types of tumor cells. Honey applied to a wound acts like a dry sponge and soaks up water in a process called osmosis. Thus, honey draws fluid away from the affected wound and helps kill bacteria because bacteria need liquid to grow. Hydrogen peroxide is used as a sterilizing agent during the honey's ripening process. The hydrogen peroxide level in honey is a strong predictor of the honey's antibacterial activity. When it comes to clearing infection, honey supplies low levels of hydrogen peroxide to wounds continuously over time as opposed to large amounts at the moment of treatment, as might be done with, say, 3% hydrogen peroxide. A slow release antiseptic at a level that is antibacterial but does not damage tissues. Pasteurization destroys the enzymes that produce hydrogen peroxide, so any honey used therapeutically should be raw and unpasteurized. Honey can vary widely depending on factors that include climate, rainfall, soil, composition, temperature, and the level of care involved in harvesting and packing. Raw honey is in the form as it exists in the beehive or obtained by abstraction without adding heat above 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Raw honey usually carries some traces of pollen and is popular with allergy sufferers because the pollen impurities are thought to reduce sensitivity to hay fever. One can chew up honeycomb and is a formula to be used for allergies and asthma. Local honey is actually homeopathic treatment for seasonal allergies. Ultra-filtered honey is the kind usually sold in supermarkets. The downside is it eliminates nutritionally valuable enzymes found in raw honey, and the heating destroys hydrogen peroxide activity. Certified organic honey is certified to be free of pesticides and antibiotics by the USA. Here's some raw honey we got in Hawaii that has vanilla bean in it. We've been taking a teaspoon of that lately, daily. It is the bomb. Here's some organic raw honey, USDA certified. We'll also mix in. I got this from Whole Foods 365 Mountain Forest raw honey. And here's some soothing throat spray that has herbs in there and has some propolis, which acts like a natural antibiotic. Let's see. The age of honey at its time of use is a factor. Although honey never spoils, they say its therapeutic effective lifespan usually extends for no more than 2 years. It does have extended shelf life because it is fermented and a pre-digested food. Aside from hydrogen peroxide, honey has a number of other chemicals with antibacterial and antioxidant activity, including phenolics, peptides, organic acids, vitamins, and enzymes. Darker honey, such as buckwheat or clover, tend to have higher antibacterial activity than paler honeys like wild raspberry or sage. So there's all kinds of research that can be done out there on where is the honey derived from, primarily what type of plant is it derived from. Manuka honey from the Manuka trees in New Zealand is probably one of the best researched honey. Very effective antibacterial action, including inhibiting the growth of antibiotic-resistant infections like Staphylococcus aureus. I recently got some at Whole Foods. I forgot to bring it up to show, but it is available there among other places. This has led to medical-grade Manuka products that include topical wound care and honey-impregnated dressings over wounds. Here's a brand called MediHoney adhesive dressings that actually have honey impregnated inside the bandages. Clinical use of honey to treat type 2 diabetic ulcers has been shown to be very effective. Here is a list of findings of wound conditions that can be helped by the use of honey: amputations, abscesses, bed sores, ulcers, cracked nipples, cuts, diabetic foot ulcers, infected wounds, leg ulcers, malignant ulcers, surgical wounds, and varicose ulcers, among others. There's another product that I like that works real well for these conditions. One could alternate back and forth, and that is Standard Process Labs Chlorophyll Complex Ointment. It's a very effective healer. Through its antibacterial actions, honey helps to deodorize wounds and control offensive odors. It has the ability to wash the surface of the wound bed from below, which aids in the removal of dirt and grit. It helps separate dead tissue from the wound and allows granulation, which is the formation of small connective tissue projections as part of the healing process, to occur. Scarring has been reduced in wounds with people who use honey. One can use organic raw honey or MediHoney prepared gel and dressing for these wounds. Honey is a simple and an inexpensive natural substance that has been used since ancient times by traditional and folk healers to treat burns. Free from adverse side effects, honey kills dangerous bacteria while also encouraging the growth of healthy tissue with people who suffer from burns, reduces the potential for scarring. Dr. John Christopher was a Mormon herbalist. That's where I first learned about herbology, and he would talk about the use of a combination of wheat germ oil and honey. If one had burns, here's my thought process and how I would go about treating it. I would start by dabbing apple cider vinegar on the area first. I would follow with some straight aloe from the plant or a high quality aloe gel like Lily of the Desert. And then I would follow with wheat germ oil and honey mixture covered by a dressing. This would be very effective. It has been clinically shown that a single nighttime dose of buckwheat honey has been more effective than popular over-the-counter medications for nighttime coughing and childhood upper respiratory infections. A formula I would recommend for my patients would be a combination of honey, garlic, and lemon for sore throats. Squeeze the juice of 1 lemon, put in a tablespoon or a little more honey, take a clove of garlic, put it through a crusher, let it stand for an hour to overnight, filter out the garlic, and then take a teaspoon up to every hour. Research on honey indicates it can help fight tooth decay due to its inhibiting cavity-causing bacteria. Honey contains a component that protects calcium phosphate from dissolving in acid. It can be used following tooth extraction and gum surgery for gingivitis and infections of the mouth. The medical recommendation on giving honey to infants is to not feed it to them before 1 year of age. This is due to botulism spores being found in tiny amounts of honey samples. The gastrointestinal tract of infants is not fully developed yet, and they do not have the intestinal microflora that allows them to digest the botulism spores without harm. Botulism is widely found in nature, detected in the soil, the air, and in house dust, which can contaminate toys, bottles, pacifiers, and babies' hands. It can be found in fresh and processed meats, corn syrup, fruits, and vegetables. Medical doctors from different countries do not fully agree with this sentiment. Medical doctors there used honey to treat gastrointestinal problems in infants as young as 8 days old. Frequently, honey was fed to infants at least once before the age of 1 year without mortality or significant illness that could be contributed to botulism. One possible solution is that medical-grade UMF-rated Manuka honey has been gamma irradiated to kill any botulism spores. Overall, this advice never made much sense to me. That being said, I will have to officially stick with the idea of not feeding it to babies at less than 1 year of age. It's the politically correct answer and widely accepted, although possibly open for debate. A study in 2005 at Purdue University showed that honey enhanced calcium absorption in laboratory animals. The more honey they consumed, the more the absorption of calcium was increased. This is a great idea for people as they age who may be prone to osteopenia or osteoporosis. Research has proven the benefits of honey taken prior to exercise, during exercise, and for post-exercise recovery. Research and clinical application has been done quite a bit with Russian athletes. Honey has been used as a popular sleep aid for thousands of years. An ancient Chinese saying calls for eating honey every night, and traditional Mexican healers would prescribe a teaspoon of raw honey in a cup of chamomile tea. Research seems to indicate that honey aids sleep by stabilizing blood sugar levels and contributing to the release of melatonin. Royal Lee, who is the founder of Standard Process Labs, used to talk about the Tupelo honey trees down in Florida and how they would absolutely not raise blood sugar levels. He said this was due to the Tupelo trees being in brackish water and possibly the mineral content down there in Florida of the soil. Here are a few of the conditions that are talked about in the book I showed you that honey can aid in the healing of. We'll start with arthritis. There's another book out there called Vermont Folk Remedies. I read this when I was young. I've probably read this 2 or 3 times in total. One of the great things it talks about there is the utilization of apple cider vinegar and honey together. Maybe a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, a teaspoon or so of honey, stirred together real well and drank down once a day. It absolutely acts like a prebiotic for the gut, can also aid in digestion as the apple cider vinegar has acetic acid and helps in the formation of hydrochloric acid. Other conditions that they talk about in the book include abrasions, bee stings, burns, bruises, sunburns, and wounds. Taken internally, it can aid in asthma, high blood pressure, colitis, colds, constipation, cough, for diarrhea, hay fever, as a heart tonic, for insomnia, which we talked about, laryngitis, to promote longevity, for sore throat, tonsillitis, and toothache. It has a long history of being used externally for healthy skin. Cleopatra supposedly applied honey to her face as a mask every morning. Colony collapse is a problem for honeybees. Potential problems include pesticides and herbicides, parasitic mites, electromagnetic pollution, and importation of bees from foreign countries. I've read some research where they talk about using various therapeutic mushrooms being fed to the bees to actually help counter this. Finally, here's a quote from Albert Einstein. If the bee disappears from the surface of the earth, man would have no more than 5 years to live. No more bees, no more pollination, and no more men. Hopefully you enjoyed this today. I would highly recommend more research into honey and utilization in your daily life for health and longevity. Have a great day.